one. Cool. Few people are still joining. It's great. Great. So we're on day 5 and we are live on Facebook. I've set it up. So that's great. People can always go back and listen to it. Most people will join us on Facebook, but it's day 5. So we've been going live every day of the week. We've been kind of covering Green Shoot's kind of life cycle for the last decade and sort of planning for what comes ahead. And so today it's just going to be a few final remarks and sort of summarizing the day, so you'll get a bit of an idea of what we spoke about during the week, but then also really go into volunteering and how to volunteer at Green Shoots, and also what are the different things that people can do when they volunteer, and what it involves. So yeah, let's begin. So I won't go into an introduction of Green Shoots because I think most of you know us. And I think if you don't, you can ask us. But what the agenda is, wrapping up, volunteering, what our projects are, and what is this volunteer program that we are going to launch. Well, I might say relaunch because we actually had a party for it last year in Brixton, a week or 2 days before lockdown. So relaunch. But closing remarks from the last 5 days, I think a few things that really came to the forefront, and perhaps it's opportune because we've been going through a pandemic, we've been going through a time where all parts of society are living a bit differently, but also the same, where we are in lockdown and we don't have a lot of accessibility. So digital inclusion was something that was probably kept coming up in a few of the discussions, be it related to healthcare or related to rural partners that we work with in Cambodia. We definitely want to understand these dividing gaps in society, and the people that we've been working with for the past 10 years, their needs are definitely changing and will continue to change, be it if they've lost jobs or if they've acquired different healthcare needs. Green Shoots does work in a wide kind of, our scope is wide, but at the end of the day, we train young people to serve the needs of a disadvantaged population group. And another thing is also, we heard a lot from our partners of how they're changing strategy as they progress during the years. Some of them are also celebrating around about 10 years as much as we are. So they had a chance to kind of share their progress and their plans for the future, and we sort of heard them out. John Mark, do you have anything to add, or?
Okay, maybe just a metaphor. Imagine learning to deal with water, okay, and putting your foot in water for the first time, and then being knee deep in it, and then starting to swim, and then realizing that it works actually better if you use a canoe. You can go faster, and eventually the river leads you to a broader river, and out you find yourself in the sea, and before you know it, that sea becomes an ocean. And I think that's really a metaphor that is applicable to our lives, how we change as people, and the organizations that we work for, or we set up, or that we support. Because this is it. We need to adjust to changing needs. Okay, and a small organization, as long as it remains nimble and has this capacity to adapt, may be more resilient than a large organization that doesn't want to change and keeps going into the same direction, and eventually will hit something that will sink it. So I think this is absolutely fundamental for us. We need to adapt constantly, and if anything, also climate change, COVID, all these force majeure events have highlighted how important it is to force the change as well, and be able to address the fundamental issues that are threatening not just our lifestyle, but the whole planet and the legacy for the future generations.
So yeah, which kind of is a great segue into what is our upcoming work and some of the things, we've talked about during this week, and a lot of it is probably things that we're going to develop a bit more. But one of the things that I'm really interested in, and sort of we are, is forecasting change in the communities we work with. I feel that a lot is going to change within Myanmar. It's going through a kind of pandemic situation, but then also a lot of political unrest. What happens next, and how can we be prepared to respond to that? And then the same goes for the communities that we work with in Cambodia. They are close to a border. There's lots of migrant workers coming in and out. They are also facing a lot of emergency extreme lockdowns, and a lot of people are going to have disruption in food availability. We work there in agriculture. Let's understand how this community would like to respond. Where can we step in with our agri-tech center? And another thing that we've been working a lot on in the past year is developing a digital health kind of solution as part of our medical program, working either on a phone app or trying to connect doctors and patients through web-based apps, figuring out how that would work. And we would have, loved to do that in Myanmar. I'd spoken to Liz about it, who's on the call right now. And perhaps this is not the time to do it there right now. So we might roll it out first in Kyrgyzstan, try it out, and then see where else it can go. Working in digital solutions is also quite financially viable, because you can sort of invest in one solution and then tailor it to different needs. It's more innovative, but then also more economically friendly towards us. And definitely focus on developing solutions that can help during COVID-19 and the kind of immediate aftermath of lockdowns opening up, but then also survive in the long run, have more of a longer lifeline. And finally, one thing that we came up with also yesterday was diversifying services at the agri-tech center. So, we can generate income and be financially sustainable, and then also offer more specialist skills for the rural youth that we work with. So these are a few things that we will probably be working on in the next kind of few years, maybe a decade, maybe less than a decade. And another thing that's extremely important to us is working with volunteers. And this means, a lot of the people that are actually on the call right now. Nancy is volunteering with us from UCL. She's been here with us the whole week, kind of managing all the techie stuff. She's the one who's pasting the links and communicating with you all. But then Kayla is also here. She's volunteered with us, and Tom. Everyone's here, done their bit. And there are different ways that people can kind of contact us to volunteer. And Kristen's here, who's helped us through Viva to connect us with volunteers. But it's important to us because they do become our ambassadors. These people then know they've been part of the organization, doing various roles. Some of them do fundraising, a lot of them do kind of hands-on physical work. We'd like to thank them all, and also all the organizations that help us pro bono. There's so many, and I'd love to list them all, but yeah, they're people that have created kind of agreements for us, lawyers working pro bono, and then there's Squire and Partners creating a whole agri-tech center design for us. So it's been great. And yes, so massive thank you to all of you. But let's kind of dive a little bit deep in. So, the two ways that we do volunteering is also in country. So we do a lot of volunteering, which is for healthcare. We've been doing that in Myanmar for the past few years. Liz is on the call. She works for Medical Action Myanmar in the UK. And now in the last couple of years, I've been coordinating a lot with her, trying to understand who is an ideal candidate, what is it that they bring, and what is it that the program needs locally. There's a great chance for us to also expand that into Kyrgyzstan, which is another country that we work with. And we'd like to do the same there. That university is a university of medical kind of clinical health, so they can also receive volunteers. And so far, we've sent about 13 doctors, nurses, and pharmacists to Myanmar. We've sort of trained 100 doctors in these clinics. And the role involves basically being a mentor and guide to young doctors who either fresh grads working in clinical settings. And so, yeah, so these are a lot more specialists. We usually get referrals through Viva or through other doctors that have been, and we will continue to do it in the same way. Ooh, it's moving. So yeah, so how can people volunteer? The first thing to do is find out when they are available. They should kind of come with us to say, you know, I'm available during this time, because then that helps with our planning. It also helps with kind of making decisions much fast. They can visit our website, they can send us an email. And yeah, it's that simple. We are small, we are young, you know, in that way, we are very direct and approachable. There's not lots of massive kind of forms and things to fill out. And the same goes for volunteering in Cambodia. Most of this presentation will focus on that. And I think the idea is that this one is more varied. It's open to more different kind of groups of people. It can host a larger variety of skills. And we've already tested it out quite a bit. We've hosted 25 volunteers in Cambodia in just the last few years. We've got an agri-tech center there, which is a great place for them to be. We've represented about 7 countries. Our local partners there have received people, and yesterday we made an announcement that we are now registered in Cambodia, so we can directly host them. And yeah, and they can do a range of activities from construction to growing food to also looking more from a business side, looking at how the agri-tech center is run and how it can be more viable. So yeah, so why should people volunteer? And you know, you share knowledge, you learn new skills, you make new friends, you have improved mental health. And I think that goes for if you're working on the ground with people, you're aware that you're making a difference. And you're part of these sustainable development goals that we have definitely committed ourselves to. And you can sort of see from the activities that we do and the work that we will be doing on a day-to-day basis, how it's plugging into these goals. We do have a sort of very strict kind of feedback and assessment form. And usually I prep volunteers before they go, and Liz is here and she'll agree, even for the healthcare, there's a massive manual, that's the manual, which is the Medical Action in Myanmar manual, and it's fed with information so that, you know, when people arrive, they don't feel lost. They're there, they can be guided. And we prep them as much as we can, managing their expectations, doing kind of regular check-ins with them, and making sure that, you know, everyone's there to achieve a goal and fulfilling it. So most of this presentation is going to be dedicated to our phase initiative, and the vision for that, for our food and agriculture project, is revitalizing rural economies for sustainable agriculture and business development. So most of the volunteering is working towards achieving that vision. And these are the kind of, you know, context that we developed this program in. So when we are doing this volunteer activity, you are looking at sort of more sustainable ways to farm. You're looking at how people are moving and trying to make sure that the program that we've created is tapping into solving these issues. So we are right there in the north of Cambodia. This part, it's close to the Thai border, and we've got an agri-tech center there that can host people, and it does a range of activities, and from a lot of construction work, some engineering work, but then a lot of food growing. And this is the site layout. This is where people are hosted on a daily basis. And they do a lot of growing and a lot of management. So it's great for, you know, people that are interested in project management. It can be quite specific. You just want to grow food, you can be there. You want to bring some design elements to it over there, that can also happen. It's a blank canvas. In 2018, we did a great design, travel, build campaign. It was assisted by Squire and Partners and also engineers at Bureau Happold. It allowed us to send lots of volumes of people going for anything from 2 weeks to maybe even a month. And it was really the kind of testing period of, can an exercise like this work? And how receptive is our staff towards it, their capabilities of hosting, and also kind of gave us an idea of where we would step in a bit more or a bit less. We collected lots of feedback from each volunteer to understand how we could improve it. So the program that I present to you now and today is really kind of coming out of that, the range of activities that people did. And I'm going to be using one of the case studies only because they documented their visit the most. And I think Tom is on the call, so I hope he's not too shy if it's the same Tom. So Tom and Sakshi went 2018, I forget the years now. And they were one of the first volunteers that were part of this design travel bill. So this was when we had acquired the land, but we didn't have any construction, anything on it. And I feel like it was one of the more challenging opportunities as a volunteer, because you arrive and you've got just everything is on paper. You really need to start from scratch. And it was great to see them sort of grow into that. They will come from a geoengineering background. And what we were doing was construction and engineering and food growing. So they were tasked with sort of helping us to come up with a building solution that would be eco-friendly. They were meant to sort of test out different earth block materials and see what works. So when they arrived, they kind of acclimatized to the place. They went and met everybody that we worked with. They came on site, and it was just this sort of space. They learned a lot about, what it takes to make these blocks using clay, and kind of communicate with people in diagrams and stuff to build molds like this, go to welders, find the prices. And they created this rig which can measure the strength of each block and kind of did testing. You can see in the back there are different molds that they made, and they continue to test, adding weights to see what is the ideal composition of clay and cement and other, how eco-friendly can we be without it crumbling down, basically. And more testing and more Excels and kind of what's, doing a wet test and a press test and a dry, all these things. And it was kind of great to sort of see that, every sort of week you're getting closer to a solution. They blogged every week from Cambodia. They're all on our website. And I think it just gives a really good flavor for, things. They did lots of brick making. They created a wall using different kind of types of mixtures of clay to cement. They tested out the wall in week 5. So they went for 5 weeks. And this wall is still incorporated in the whole kind of complex of our space. So it is the wall. And then they had sort of lots of time socializing with the people that we work with. So I think all in all, good. Their legacy kind of continued on, that other volunteers came and made more bricks because we needed those, because we had to make this entire structure. And sort of, you see, all the bricks are made in-house. They're using clay that we have from the ponds that we dug. And so there's a little video here from them that we can listen to. And we wanted
Can't hear anything. Can you maybe play it from the beginning?
Oh, sorry.
We can't hear anything.
Oh.
And we wanted the green shoot
Can
in 2018 for about 4 weeks in Samrong in Cambodia as part of the Classic Initiative. We went there to provide some engineering support and some project management, where we helped to design some of the cement bricks, the cement mix bricks, so the earth blocks that we used in the building of the Agri-Tech Center itself.
Yeah, we did that work with the local CEDO team. So we worked really closely with them, and they also took us out to some of the schools where they showed us how they were teaching the kids to grow the local agriculture, and they had some of the model farmers sort of leading the teaching program there. It was really great to see the enthusiasm for the kids and the teachers, and you could definitely see how important that was when the green shoot work was at the school in Cameron.
I think some of our favorite parts of being in Samrong, the few weeks that we were there, was riding around the town on the Speedo motorbike, and being called out by the locals for being foreigners in the town, because I guess they didn't really have that many people, so we definitely stuck out a little bit. But that was all good. We tried shopping in the local market and trying to learn a few words of Khmer. I think we learned the word for cement because we were trying to buy cement and lime. I think limestone as well.
Yeah, lime. Yeah.
Just lime, sorry, yeah. And also the word for thank you. And that was, I think, the extent of our Khmer knowledge.
Yeah, we didn't really learn a lot of food. Often at a loss in restaurants, eating mystery soups. We ended up with some salad one night, trying ham. We relied on photos a lot, but it was a good experience. We got to try a lot of different things.
Yeah. And we stayed in a really cool guest house as well, which had like a yard full of mango trees, which was really cool. I think like working out there, working in Samrong and working with the local team that they were connected with as well, just like do all the work, it was like an invaluable experience for both of us. We were working firsthand with the local community and the local people in like a development scenario, and also like close up the problem and trying to actually solve the problem to do with agriculture and knowledge sharing and education and the rest of the facet initiative stuff in Cambodia.
Yeah, it was a great experience. It was really good to see the help we could provide to the team, and the way the team sort of picked up and ran with it. The CEDO team was so enthusiastic, and it was also great to see eventually when they built the agri-tech center 6-7 months after we left, that the work we did went into a really great project and had a really good impact on the local community.
Yeah, and all along we had a really good time.
Yeah,
I miss getting
fantastic.
our morning fresh coconut juice in the morning and going for breakfast to the little restaurant across from the local office.
Yeah.
Go back.
100%. Yeah, definitely do another project with Green Food. Offer to help Green Food work with Minizy again, and we'd love to wish Green Food a happy 10th birthday.
Oh yes, definitely. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Right. So I think I can thank Tom directly because he is on the call to sort of tell you that, yes, there is a guest house that you can stay at because those details are yet to come, but also don't have to drive a motorbike. We offer bicycles, which we've all ridden on. Elizabeth's on the call. She's been on them with me. But yeah, it's one of the key things that we like volunteers to bring is enthusiasm, because if you're coming enthusiastically and sort of approaching a problem, if it is a problem, or just seeing something that needs to kind of be done with that enthusiasm, it's sort of kind of, I don't want to use the word infectious, but it's there, people carry, it takes it forward. And the great thing about Samrong and this place that we are in is it's a small town. You get around, there's fruits and things that you can buy and kind of have a nice sort of experience of local area. So I will carry on with more feedback. Feel free to read it, but we've had sort of people kind of Helena and Sahara, both architects, and they kind of had a chance to reconnect with them being architects in either Brazil or in London, but use it for a different purpose. They might not always get a chance to do projects that give them a way to be more eco-friendly. It's maybe something that's still a bit more abstract in their real jobs. This gave a chance for them to try it out and just tap into their creative side a bit more. Leo was a business school student that kind of came for 2 months. He was in when everything was constructed, and he was sort of the kind of tall young man who was just doing a lot of heavy lifting for a very long time.
He was just 18 then, huh?
He was just 18, yeah. And I think this was one of the first sort of experiences that he had of being on a site that requires all this manual labor, and sort of also kind of opened his eyes to seeing different ways that people are living. So all in all, I think what is great is that we haven't done a lot of volunteering for this program in the past. But we've managed to sort of have lots of people come and join us in the last couple of years, which really allows us to test it out. In the past, we worked mostly with government schools, about 43 of them. And the volunteering there was much more kind of sporadic. It was, if we had either photographers going. Their specific mission was to document the work, or it would be people coming with a very specific farming background skill. One of the main reasons to opt for that was because it was our work, but the locality was different schools, government schools. And I think navigating that always can sometimes be problematic. But now we're lucky we have our own space, so we can house them. So yeah, so this is Leo, and he's working on our home garden, which is at the entrance. So there's lots of now we have a mix of agricultural opportunities because we have all these growing plots, lots of weeding, lots of planting, lots of harvesting and cooking even, because now we've got our biogas kitchen on site, which is something that we're going to work towards a lot more. So yeah, the opportunities now are a lot more mixed and a lot more varied. And so which is what we come to, which is the volunteer program at the center. And what's next? So this is a roundhouse space that was constructed in 2018. And again, it's using a lot of earth blocks that you can see at the back, and then some of it is cemented, thatched roof, bamboo. So again, lots of eco credentials. It's housing our biogas kitchen. So it's got a stove at the back, but it can really be lifted into something a lot more prettier and sort of be a bit more of a feature. We've got that amazing classroom at the front, but this can also be a feature of something that is attractive, more convivial. And so we want to do a little bit of a revamp of this. And that's really the volunteer program that we're focusing on. So again, it will include lots of architect and design, but then also lots of growing and sort of interiors, creative sort of opportunities, and then hopefully cooking, and so many other doors are opening for us. So basically we close it off a little bit to make it a bit more secure, and we use it as a space which can be a kitchen dining area. It's great for future volunteers that come, and they can use that as their hangout spot. Right now there isn't really that kind of space available, and I learned that after being on site again, once everything's constructed for like 3-4 months, and then you suddenly realize that, why is all my socializing happening in the classroom? There needs to be another space. We're lacking that. It does get sunny and hot in this country, extremely hot. So we need that shade, and that's why we have these screens to kind of let the sort of whatever wind is blowing in. Again, this is sort of a mock-up that was created by Square and Partners, and I think they're involved again in the design process. There's actually a CGI kind of link to it where you can sort of be in the space. I'll sort of send that in an email after the follow-up to this, which is great because that's fun to play around with. So we have a little bit of volunteer schedule designed up. The months might not fully align to how it is, but to give you a little bit of flavor that, something that I've kind of created. Nobody's going right now, don't worry. But if people were to go, this is a sequence of activities. So a lot of work right now is related to sustainable agriculture and also enterprise development. And when I say enterprise development, every activity on site is treated like a business, like a mini business. So if you're doing chicken raising, there is certain money that's going in. We're making a little bit of money by selling chickens. So really kind of enhancing those and making sure that we look at those as businesses. And because that's what eventually we're demonstrating to the local population. So the way all of our volunteer programming works is it's £350 per week, and that includes with not flights, but everything else. So accommodation, food, transport. So you get a bicycle, which is pretty good because it's sort of a 20-minute ride from the guest house. So yeah, and that's it. It includes local transport, accommodation, food, 4G phone plan with a lot of data. I think like 40 gigabytes or something, and a bicycle. The same. So when you go a bit later on in the year, and ignore the months because I don't think they will apply, but it's more about eco design, natural building, eco construction, and then permaculture. So this is when we're sort of more focusing on the actual roundhouse and making it into a space that we envision as a kitchen. The same, everything else stays the same. And then again, you go back into sort of by December time, we're looking more as rice harvesting, but then again, going back into sustainable horticulture and enterprise development. So that's basically like the most basic package for the volunteering that we've created. The guest house is nice. It's friendly staff. Few of them speak English, and you kind of very quickly learn which ones do. So you just sort of look out for them all the time. And I think it's great because they're the people that then teach you the words correctly, because other people might teach you the wrong words. And then you can kind of, the rest, you have restaurants nearby, and we prep you with all of that. So here's another short video that you can watch, which gives you a little bit more idea of us on site. So it's 40 seconds. Please enjoy it. I made it, so it might be a bit funny.
I would recommend this to anyone who like the outdoorsy work and just hard work in the world. Discover new cultures, people,
So yeah, so yes, right now it looks like, we're asking a lot. We're asking people to pay us £350 per week, but we arrange everything for them. And then you also get a lot of support from Green Shoot, so you can sort of understand how people want to plan their trip. They can fundraise through us for it. We can set up campaigns for them online. They can add gift aid to it, which is why it's also really important to know when people want to travel. So then this can be planned in advance, and you can sort of go with the kind of have an idea of what your budget is. We prep and guide before travel. We have sort of a Google map with everything pinpointed. We share that with you so you can know where to get your food and where to get your laundry, because we forget when you work on an agriculture site, your clothes are dirty all the time. I basically now have a bag, which is my farming clothes. And I think there's stuff that, everyone in Cambodia must think I only have 4 outfits, because that's what I'm always wearing over there. And you have an in-country welcome by our local team. And hopefully now it's going to be a team that we hire. This is a bit outdated. We have a team which is from the local Green Shoots office, and they will welcome you. And we do give assistance via WhatsApp. If it's true, most of the construction of the Agri-Tech Center is through a WhatsApp group where you would have photos being sent. Do you want red coloring on the steel or green? And then you just be choosing. So I think we have done a lot through WhatsApp. And finally, you get a Green Shoots t-shirt. It's right here. Warren's already wearing one, even though he's not volunteered yet, but he's promised volunteering. So I thought I'll give him one anyway. And yeah, so for you all today, I know you're all on the call and you want to know how to volunteer, but you can also go and tell other people, and then you can send them, and we'll be really nice to them, we promise. But essentially, yes, you can be our ambassador, or you can be a volunteer yourself. And that goes for both healthcare and the Cambodia project. I think with the healthcare, it's just quite a lot more specific and clinical. So I've tailored this presentation more towards the general public, because it's a bit more kind of friendly for everyone. And then, but equally, if you know somebody who's a doctor or nurse or pharmacist, they can also get in touch with us. And that's really all that I have today. I think, John Mark, if you want to add more, Tom is here. We can kind of ask him questions directly, and he can tell you that I do answer emails on time. But other than that, yeah, I think we can kind of open the floor to questions.
Yeah, I mean, we are very grateful to all the volunteers who have helped us in the past. And you have volunteers with very specific skills, specialist skills. So you talk about architects, doctors, nurses, pharmacists, and they of course add a lot. And you could see in the images, the transformation from the moment Thomas actually came, and then a couple of years later, then you have this full center, and it wouldn't have been possible without them and without all the other people who assemble all the pieces of the puzzle together. And the same is true for the medical workshops and the medical training programs. And we're very grateful to all of them. But we're also grateful to other people who don't necessarily have specialist skills, but they have their enthusiasm and they come and they dedicate their youth, their enthusiasm, or even, we're grateful for families to come over. I mean, we have Elizabeth here who brought her kids. And I think it's a fantastic exposure to the world and to the world and to a different concept for the world. A world where we have a harmony, a balance between Mother Nature and our society, and we live in a sustainable way. So, thank you to all, and please do become ambassadors and tell people we're nice and we do respond to emails and WhatsApps. I mean, mostly Munize, I don't, but.
Liz also mentioned, and I think it's true, even for our medical program with MAM, Medical Action Myanmar, we also take volunteers that do finance, logistics, and in the past we've had sort of partners of doctors kind of turn up and do, either helping with some kind of logistics in pharmaceuticals. I think one of them was doing that, and then the other one was helping more with kind of planning and management. I forget what David exactly did, but I think he managed the clinics and sort of created a rotation and some finance help for Sieb, who I think needs it because he is a robot indeed.
It was more like a business management, so business plan definition, totally away from the more medical practices where you have, people like Kristen and all the others who have been involved over the years have had a huge impact. And there, you have other sets of skills that can help just the pure logistics or HR administration. I mean, it's, you look at all these issues and everybody can contribute.
Tom, do you mind if I pick on you a little bit to kind of give everybody else a little bit more of kind of, it's been a few years since you all went, and it was a completely blank canvas when you arrived. So to now kind of just look at a structure, do you feel sort of removed from it? It's, or do you feel like, yes, it is definitely looking like what you thought it could look like?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we saw some of the early sketches come from yourself and Ed, and it was maybe a little bit difficult to see. It was quite far off from when we were there because it was sort of just a blank field. We put up a little temporary shelter just to keep ourselves out of the sun while we're making some bricks. But both Sakshi and I followed it quite closely, and it's been amazing to see the little steps. You've had more volunteers come, create more bricks, and then watch that center go up. So yeah, no, it's good, and I think we could see that you guys had that trajectory anyway when we came. There was a buzz out in the CEDAW office when we were there, and there was a buzz from yourself and Ed. You could see that it was going to be something, a pretty special site.
Yeah, thank you for that. And it's true, I think, the first structure that was created still exists and it's used as storage. It still has a purpose. And I think it's sort of everything else kind of came around it. And it's true, even in the early days, I had no idea because I was looking at drawings, but I didn't know what anything looked like until I got there. So yeah, I think one of the things when we do talk about volunteering and something that is far away, it's at times harder to understand kind of what would the role be. But when you arrive, it sort of falls into place a bit more. So yeah, so please, ask us any more questions or any more information on how kind of the funding of things would work or how we can help with raising funds. And I know what we're talking about right now is far off considering most of us can't even get on a flight, but we're really hoping. And I think another thing that we're really hoping for is when things do open up, people want to fly with a purpose. Like they want to know that, you know, the time that they spend going to another part of the world, they use it in a way that is more purposeful. It's been great. You know, one of the things during lockdown, we've appreciated our green spaces, and we've appreciated how we look after them, and the people that do look after them. And I think perhaps the boundaries of that can be extended to more globally. And so when we do visit, you know, places like Cambodia, where there is a lot of impoverishment, and we enjoy the temples and all of that, which is, again, you know, we're 2 hours away from Siem Reap, so it is still a holiday. People can still kind of match the two together, and it's just about knowing the projects to be part of, which give to a community and also get you away from the kind of hustle and bustle of Siem Reap, whatever that is, pub street and all of that. I should have probably put more photos of temples. That's always a winner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And doggies, you know.
And doggies.
I mean, puppies have invaded our daily life now thanks to the pandemic. So you know, we should get puppies in the agri-tech center as well. That will get people come.
Well, the puppies eat the chicken, so I don't want to talk about that. But Warren, you have a question?
Yes, I have a question. Thank you, Manija, for taking my question. So my question was, aside from the fact that right now you can't have volunteers really flying in and going to the site to help you with the projects, do you have, or are there any plans to have volunteering programs over here or elsewhere for fundraising for Green Shoots? And what could one do for that?
Okay, yeah, that's actually a good question. And I think, yes, the opportunities to volunteer in the UK exist. A lot of it is being done remotely because we currently don't have, we're not in office. But yeah, so for example, right now we work a lot with UCL. We recently did a hackathon with them about a digital product where, you know, 20 students were given to me for a day to do a lot of research and come up with something. So we continue to do those volunteering kind of drives. And when you talk about volunteering to raise funds for Green Shoots, a lot of it is done through assisting with grant writing and sort of finding opportunities where we could apply for funds. And that allows us to sustain these programs. So I do work usually on a more one-on-one basis with volunteers from universities, and usually it's students who can be guided into that. So yeah, those opportunities also exist. And it's just, I think, a little bit of some of it will involve figuring out, once we do have either an office space, or what happens to us in a few months' time and how we could host them.
Thank you.
And I should probably mention, so another volunteering that we're doing is with the European Business School, where I'm given sort of a team of students, and it's about 6 of them, maybe 7. And we're working on sort of doing a whole business plan strategy for digital health and how Green Shoots can incorporate that. So the thing to answer is sort of, you know, volunteers can sort of assist in terms of kind of bringing a skill set that is lacking, but also in terms of stuff that I'm not able to do because I don't have time. So it's about managing everyone's skill. Kayla is on the call. So she was through a European sort of USA internship program where she helped a lot with research on sort of microfinance and kind of helping out. So she was in our office in Lavender Hill. And maybe you can tell us, like, how was that experience, and what are you up to now? Did that help? I hope it did.
Yeah, it was a great experience. I miss, working with all of you. It was great. And it's so exciting to see how the Cambodia project has progressed, because I remember we had that event with the architecture firm. Yeah. And, we saw in VR how it was going to look. So to see it actually come to life is really exciting.
Yeah, and exactly. And I think that's sometimes, one of the things that I get a lot of volunteers that help us with fundraising, and they will help us to write grant applications, and they'll help us to do a lot of these things. They'll come for 3 months, and then the kind of result of them is happening 8 months later. So they at times are unaware of the difference that they've made. So it's always nice to get back in touch with them and kind of inform them, you know, this was successful, or we have this structure now. So I think, yeah, we've been extremely lucky with the kind of volunteers that we've had.
So the conclusion is that if you volunteer for us, it's a bit like a movie, okay? You have the production and so forth, and then, you know, it gets cut, edited, and then gets released a year or 2 years later.
Yeah.
But it will come, okay? And hopefully, and well, it's good to have had the testimony of some of you. I mean, first of all, you came back alive, you're still speaking to us. So I guess the experience must have been good. And please spread the word.
Kristen has a question. I'll take that.
Manize, thank you. It's just a comment, really, just to
Okay.
say thank you so much for the fantastic presentation. I feel on a personal level, I'm still very upset that I've never been able to travel out with you guys. And but the fantastic role has been obviously supporting and sourcing some medical volunteers to come. Many of whom the visits have been life-changing for. I mean, I think it's fair to say that you stimulated now a renowned chefing sister duo in London who was stimulated by getting back to their roots in Myanmar. And of course, you've had a long-standing relationship with Beaver and myself, and we hope that will continue. Our international exchange and working partnerships group is really growing within Beaver. Beaver used to be very UK focused, and we've gained so much from supporting our trainees in being able to work in other countries, and it's been fantastic to work in partnership with you in doing that. And of course, your other good friend of the organisation, Sanjay Bagani, is now the president of the European AIDS Clinical Society, so our reach is even wider, I think, across the European area. And so thank you so much for staying in touch with us and for having such a fantastic collaboration together. We've gained so much from it. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think it's true. I completely agree. It's so many of the volunteers that go on our medical programs, they come through Beaver. Kristen has put us in touch with many of them. And what he was referring to was the Rangoon sisters, who Liz is now working quite closely with. So it's two sisters, Emily and I don't know her sister's name, Amy. And so they went to Myanmar separately, and since then they've been running all these supper clubs and continue to support Medical Action Myanmar through various Zoom cook-alongs now, but before that, feeding people Burmese food and cooking at different events. And I think that's great. That's showing how, thanks, Kristen's put the link in. It's just sort of showing that they come from a sexual health background. Emily does. And so she
She's
went.
a psychiatrist.
Yeah, and she went recently, didn't she?
She went recently, and she did a lot of workshops on depression, particularly for the doctors and our counsellors.
Which is great. In terms of just providing the support, not to just the patients, but the people who treat them. And I think that's how the healthcare program works. If you train the doctors and if you provide the guidance and this culture of continuing medical education within the clinics, the people that they treat will have better healthcare. And I think, we'd love to expand that on towards in Kyrgyzstan as well. And so please, we have sort of 10 more minutes of this session. Feel free to chip in, give your comments. Steffi, if you have anything to add.
Well, I've always been quite a shy observer in the background. I mean, the media saw, because they're all doing an amazing job, and it has grown so much. Along the years that via Jean-Marc in particular, I've been hearing about this initiative and project. I mean, I'd love to see the younger generation becoming more involved. And obviously my children are getting to that sort of stage like Tom, where personally, I would love to see this sort of engagement. I think it should become a must as a parent, because it's the future generation. I need to have a better awareness on other realities. So one practical question is for volunteering, especially on site, obviously post-COVID, whenever we're going back to some sort of normality, what is the minimum commitment? I mean, I understand that obviously there will be costs associated because that is also part of the supporting and fundraising, but what sort of commitment do you require to make it meaningful and for them to also gain something really insightful and concrete?
I think that is a great question because, you know, one of the things that, you know, even in COVID, when we're just sitting at home, we do know time is important, the way we spend our time. And once we start going on holidays, and Liz adds, for healthcare work, we ask for 3 months commitment because of the specific nature of that work. It's healthcare, you're working with doctors. The guidance you're providing is much more specific. With our Cambodia project, with the volunteering and in the Agri-Tech Center, Elizabeth's been there for, what was it, 4 days, 5 days, a week? I forget.
Okay, so it can vary.
Just short of a week, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's sometimes that's better when you come as a family, because the way you manage kids is much more difficult. They might just get really bored. We have lots of different things. I think Toby decided that we needed a swimming pool, and I think he spent a lot of time digging a swimming pool. But yeah, I think when families go, it's different because we would cater it and manage it in a different way. So 1 week is good. You kind of get used to the space in a few days, and then at times if people are just arriving, it's time difference and coping with things like that as well. But when sort of people go as individuals or as couples, then there is more freedom. But the minimum ask, I would say, is a week, because you get that experience.
Okay.
Anything shorter, I feel, doesn't do justice to the project, because you're just
exactly
used to the environment. It is a small town. It's quite rural, and so you know when you come from sort of city, it's a bit different.
I don't know. I mean, it's in my experience.
Yeah, please do tell, because I think the other thing is
experience than me.
Yeah.
But I came with my son. It was really to get a feel for the center and see what was happening there, as more as a trustee than as a volunteer, really. And definitely Toby is not much of a volunteer at this stage yet. It's too young. But I think for the volunteers that you're talking about, which is more like Leo's age, 18 and above.
Yeah, exactly. We are talking about mature students, so university. I know I look very young. Thank you so much, but my children are grown up.
Yeah, and what I meant is my experience of also seeing Leo there, for example, is you need somebody who can stand on their 2 feet, has a bit of independence, has a bit of curiosity, and is not scared by whatever spiders come over his bed or something. That's one thing. And I think to understand again how things work, and understand maybe what the culture is, and how you interface with people, and how you get the most of your interaction with the locals. I think a week is probably a bit short. My view would be that anything below 2-3 weeks, I think, would be a minimum. But
I agree.
For me, easy to decide. But this is sort of my perspective on it after visiting the center.
So
Thank you.
What I will clarify, what I was trying to say is, if people are going as a family with young kids, and which is what I thought Steffi was talking about, then below 10, then a week is kind of, I think, enough. It's harder to maybe keep them entertained, perhaps. I don't know, because I don't have kids. But I think if they're older, sort of 18 and above, then a month, whatever time that they can spare, the minimum would be 3 weeks, because they can, because I think they're also at an age where they're used to everything being so instant. Things really slow down over there. So to get a full kind of acclimatized version of their volunteering, 3 weeks would be the minimum. And then longer if their school allows. So Leo was part of a business school, which required him to be associated with an organization for 2 months. So that's why his term was that, and it was just his summer holidays. And I was there for about a month of it, I think, to guide him. I forget, because it was a long time ago. But yeah, so it's and that's how we would sort of plan out a lot of volunteering, where they would have interaction with different people. Because one of the things that I tell everybody before they go is that it's quite isolating. And unfortunately, the last year we've all lived through an isolating time. So now we know what it feels like. But it can be, you're quite on your own a lot. You sort of go through days without really speaking in English completely. And if you speak French, then you're fine, because we have our friends down the road from Enfants du Mekong, and you can practice your French. I still haven't. 7 years, I haven't learned a word of French. I can speak more Cambodian than French, which is pretty bad.
Shame on you, Munise, shame on you.
I can vouch to that, Munisi. I can vouch to that. I have learned my Cambodian from you, so.
But I think, the idea is we do like when people come to us to sort of have an idea of when they want to go, because then it allows us to plan and be ready. And at times, if I can manage my trips to line up with theirs, then it just becomes much more of a fulfilling experience for all. And so, we can be in touch, Steffi, when things open up. And
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you to all.
Great. So with that, what I will be doing is closing our week of going live just when I was getting used to it. And now it's finished. So John Mark, if you have anything to add, otherwise, I think in the next decade, I will be a hologram in your living room doing exactly the same thing. Are you ready for that?
Well, the only thing I'd like to add is to thank you for your everything and for being you as you are.
Thank you. Great. So we will close our live week, and that's it. We are still raising funds for the rest of the month. They are matched. I will make that sort of announcement now. So we've basically got an awesome regular donor who is matching up to £6,000. So our mission is to have about £12,000 by the end of this month. So
it's gift aid.
Plus gift aid, yes. And we're, this call out goes to everybody that's either watching us live. It will go in kind of a few of the follow-ups, but it's great. And it's great to have these generous people giving their time and their funds to make our work happen. Awesome. Okay.
Thank you so much. And congratulations again.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thanks so much.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye.